Catalyst 2030 awards ceremony was spectacular, and the awards themselves welcomed by the private sector, governments, multilaterals, and donors.
Catalyst 2030 as a movement is disruptive.
One of the best things I think that's come out of Catalyst 2030 so far is incredible collaboration across the ecosystem that just didn't exist before Catalyst came into being.
The thing I love most about Catalyst is that it's an open movement for social entrepreneurs around the world.
I would encourage anyone who's looking to be more connected with their local communities around social development goals to come along to Catalyzing Change Week.
Let's co-create the systems innovation economy. Please click on this link and share your ideas and thoughts. We look forward to your feedback through the week and to co-create the systems innovation economy. Thank you.
Welcome to Catalyzing Change Week.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this interesting video that tells you very briefly who we are at Catalyst 2030. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us in this afternoon here in Beirut, Lebanon. I don't know what's the time for you, but welcome from wherever you are joining us from. As you heard, this year, Catalyzing Change Week is about solutions from the front lines. Everything has a front line, even communication. It's so important. And to talk about some solutions, some problems, and their solutions regarding communication, we have the expert in communication with us, Christine Malouf. Before I start with Christine, I want to introduce myself to you for those of you who don't know me. I am Jackie Malouf, founder and president at Dialab in Lebanon. I'm the vice president of the International Diabetes Federation, IDF, and I am the co-chair for the MENA region and for the Lebanon chapter at Catalyst 2030, very proudly. So now we leave the floor to our very interesting guest. Don't get fooled, she's young, but she has many years of experience where she has worked and collaborated with in the NGO field. So she knows quite a bit about social entrepreneurship and especially in her field, which is communications. Hello, Christine.
Hello, Dr. Malouf, and hi to everyone from around the world. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you to Catalyst for giving us this platform to connect and share our ideas and be able to move the field forward. I look forward to this very interesting session, and please, we really want this session to be engaging. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll try to make sure to answer them throughout our conversation.
And I'm gonna tell you a secret. This is the first time I am interviewing my own daughter, but she happened to be the expert I wanted to talk to. So I really hope all of you will enjoy this session and will benefit from it and will get few solutions from one of our frontliners in the communication field. So I will start by saying communication is of extreme importance nowadays, and it's always been the case, but today more than ever before. In every field, no matter what field you are working with or you are working on, what problematic you are working on, you need communication skills. Of course, we have the expert, but also we need to create something called our digital footprint, which is the title that we're going to be talking about. But before everything else, Christine, can you please tell us what's the definition of digital footprint? So for everyone to start by knowing exactly what does it mean to say digital footprint?
Yes, of course. First of all, I couldn't agree more. Communications, just like anything else, it's a whole world of its own. There's so many different types of communications and areas that it's important to know that it is a big field, but we shouldn't be afraid of it because we use it on our day-to-day life without even noticing. Like right now, just us speaking or anything from visual to auditory to listening, everything we do in our life is a form of communication. So sometimes when people hear communications now with all the different changes in digital media and everything, they tend to feel overwhelmed or scared, but forget that the basis of communications are within us and we use them on a day-to-day basis. So I just wanted to make that point clear before we dive into the conversation. For today's sake, we did want to focus on the digital, since as we know, it's continuing to change on a day-to-day basis. The trends change, technology is running faster than we had ever imagined it to be. And it's exciting, but also scary. So we need to know the different sides of everything in life. So a digital footprint, just like an actual footprint is, when we go back to like a real footprint, like your actual, when you're stepping, you're leaving your steps behind. So it's exactly the same thing, but in the digital space. So a digital footprint is anything you're leaving behind, from creating your online persona to any click that you perform on the internet. So all these big data spaces that we see sometimes in the US while driving, in other countries, or that the magical cloud that we don't know what it is, everything we do to a certain extent is our digital footprint. So it could be from the things that we research to the digital social platforms. And today, I think we're going to be focusing on how we can enhance what we can control, because some of these footprints are out of our control, but there are a few things that we can control and customize to make sure that we are portraying what we would like our persona to be to the best of our capabilities.
Interesting. So you're telling us not only the people who have a strong presence in social media have created a digital footprint, but also those who search the search engine who think they don't have a presence?
Yes. So pretty much everyone, even if they think that they don't have social media accounts or any other websites that they use, everyone does leave a trail behind. So let's say I don't have any of the social media platforms, but I went on Google, not in crypto or not in incognito mode, sorry. If I go on Google and I search anything, like how can I improve my communication skills, I have left that footprint. Like Google then knows that I'm interested in this field. There are tools nowadays that you can block the cookies and those things, but that's why we mentioned that there's a certain extent of things that we can control, and we shouldn't really worry about that, but instead focus on the things that we can control and enhance, which actually leave a positive impact and benefit our career in the future.
Okay, so this today is mainly for those of us who intentionally create the digital footprint. And before we go further or deeper into this conversation, let me ask you why you think it's important, first of all, to create, then to well maintain and enhance your digital footprint.
So in my opinion, let me start off by saying that, for example, I'll start with an example, actually. Whenever I get an email from someone that I don't know, or even if it's someone that I know not much of, my first curiosity is to like research who that person is. And technically that's their digital footprint. So I'm actually seeing their online identity and persona, whether it's a simple Google search or going deeper into the social media platforms from LinkedIn to Twitter to whatever the person or organization chooses to use. It's the first impression that a person has. And with everything at our fingerprints, like we can on our phone, on our computer, like it's become super easy to find information about people, yet alone organizations and companies, that it is the first impression that we get. So I think that if this is the first impression with virtually, then it has to be the best impression you want to give. Just like when you're going to meet someone face to face, you're like for an interview or a meeting, you're like a little stressed. But sometimes we tend to forget that this online persona that we have is the first thing that someone is seeing about you. They might know nothing about you.
Exactly. That's so interesting. Yes.
So that's why it's very important to know how we're portraying ourselves. And this is the beauty of it, that you choose how little or how much you want to share, how to share it, when to share it, and why. So this is the power that we have. And that's what I was talking about earlier, that we can make the best out of it, but we can also not use it to the best of its capabilities. So that's why I think maximizing it to the best of our abilities and using it effectively not only affects us on a personal level, but also is the first impression that you're giving to the world, not just on a career level, but also on a personal level with like creating new interactions with people, trying to connect with other people that are like-minded. So that's pretty much why it's important.
Thank you. And before I go ahead with the next question, I want to say that Christine and myself, we share the same background. My PhD is actually in public relations and communications, but the difference is the digital part is new to me. In my time, it wasn't as important as it is now. So it's very important to evolve, to elevate ourselves to the level in order to be up to date. And that's why we need nowadays experts to help us to create this digital space for ourselves. Now, something very, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. Just like we started the session by saying there are different types of communications, there's no way for someone to be an expert in all. So your focus mainly is on public relations, which is a very different field of its own. And then we have the digital, we have the advertising, and they all do work together, of course. And a communications expert would have knowledge in all of them, but then would specialize in their pathway. And I'd like to say that I've also been mentored, have the privilege to be mentored by Dr. Malouf throughout the years. So I continue to learn from her on a day-to-day basis as well.
Thank you. Thank you. It shows the result is there. I don't need to say anything about it. So this question is particularly interesting to me because it reflects a situation that I've lived. So you said the persona could be for the individual or for the organization. So in this case, you see behind me is Dialab, the organization that I co-founded with my eldest daughter, Sylvie, after she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So since day one, Jackie was equal Dialab. Dialab was equal Jackie because I was the frontliner. I was the one on the ground. And there is a point where I don't know whether to separate this or where to draw the line. So tell us, Christine, what do you think about those two types, the individual and versus the organizational footprint, and where do you think or when to draw the line?
So I'll start off by saying that there isn't really a line, the lines are blurred, and it's better not to think of it that way because when you're first establishing a digital presence, you first think of yourself as a person, and or sometimes it could be taken both ways. So I'll give both examples, but start off by saying when someone's creating a digital account, whether it's on LinkedIn or Twitter, because those are the most professional platforms, and then we have video that is up and coming, so Instagram and other accounts, which we'll get into in a bit. We tend to think of ourselves as an individual. So who am I? What do I want to post about myself? What are my skills? What is my career? But then again, that is considered as a personal brand, like you are your own brand. On the other hand, you have the organization that either you founded or you're working with. When it's in terms of founding, because it's like another baby that you have, or it's even more a part of you, that also is a brand of its own. So it's very important to see that you have you as a brand and then the company or organization as another brand. Yes, they feed into each other, but they're also very different. So you'll get to a point where, especially when you're starting off a company or an organization, you use your own networks, so you become your brand. But once the organization grows, it will outgrow you in a positive sense because you are not just focusing on this, you are focusing on other aspects as well and have more than just this area of focus in your career. So that's where, if you want, the line draws, because you then have the two different brands and personas that are growing in a parallel line, more or less, they feed into each other. So you use these two different accounts or identities to benefit each other, but they're also very different because you can never just have one person be the image of an organization or a person. It does start off that way sometimes, but then it becomes more than just a person.
Absolutely, and I've lived it to a point where the first years after founding Dialab, some people would call me Jackie Dialab. It became my last name.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the best thing when starting off, because when you're starting something new, it's already hard enough to like change habits and get a name known. So by associating it to a specific person, people will then make the link, whether it's visually, some people are more visual, some people are more auditory and reading wise. So by making that link, you help expand the brand. And then it gets to a point where the brand is a persona of its own, and then you're just benefiting each other.
Well, I'm thankful they didn't call me Jackie Diabetes. Jackie Dialab was more acceptable. So actually, this is what happened. In the beginning, it was absolutely consuming and merging. There was no distinction whatsoever between what is Dialab or where it starts, where it ends, where is Jackie's space, to a point where, as I said, it became my last name, kind of. But then again, now it's been 12 years. Thank God we became a well-known organization, and now it's not the same anymore. It's like automatically it happened. I wanted to ask you this question, but I knew there is not actually a line. It just kind of draws itself. It drew itself for me, the line, little by little. We grew apart, as you mentioned, which is very interesting. And I think in the NGO,
I would say you didn't grow apart. That's there. You're still Dialab, and Dialab is you.
Yes.
And Dialab grew. You grew different and unique. Like each one now has its unique strategy and identity. And it's and I just wanted to add that from the start, Dialab had its own social media account. So I wanted to make that clear to the audience that it's very important that regardless of what you are starting, to have and social media accounts dedicated for that initiative movement. If you're starting your own business and it's relying on your name, to create a business account for that, even though at first it might be a little confusing, like what am I going to post on my personal, or what am I going to post to advance the business side or the organization. You need to start from the beginning, and then once you get into you get used to like posting, and you start seeing what others are doing, and you seek the help of a communications professional or do your own research, the strategies will become more and more visible, because digital, just like anything else, there's a lot of trial and error. The trends change, the algorithms change on a daily basis, and those are things that are out of our control, and trying to stay up to date with all of that is ideal. And not everyone can do it, but there are a few tips and tricks that we'll share towards the end that will help you to try to stay up to date and be able to utilize all these tools to the best of your capabilities.
Okay, Christine, we need to agree on one thing. Don't jump to my next questions ahead of time. Give me the chance to ask my question first.
I'm excited.
Yes, I can see that. More than being excited, I think this is where you can tell how much the person is passionate about what they do. And I know what that means and where it's coming from. So my next question was for you to talk to us a little bit about some of the social media channels. Give us like put grades on those, grade them by importance, and tell us a little bit about what is content creation, what is the caption, what are the do's and don't in social media. So please take your time, because I know this will be time consuming more than another question, but feel free to tell us all that you know about it.
Well, it's my favorite part, so I don't know where to start. grading them, that's the absolute challenge. I'd rather just focus on each one and how to utilize it better. As I mentioned earlier, in the business or organizations, I'll always merge like business and organizations because like they are on the same level more or less from a digital standpoint. LinkedIn and Twitter are more or less the most used in the business world. LinkedIn, we have seen a growth in LinkedIn throughout the past few years. People, ever since COVID, started sharing more personal stories. It started off as just finding a career, posting like your skills, and now people have started to share like more enticing stories from their workspace. So it's a very storytelling platform, still very heavily focused on expanding your network within the industry that you're working in, and an excellent tool to be able to network and find people in order to advance in your career. Twitter, on the other hand, is very quick, very short. Like if you have an idea, just write it and click it. And there's been a lot of changes in Twitter that is a bit hard to keep up with all the changes in governance. But it's still a very newsworthy platform because that's where like all the fast, rapid changing news go in. If there's a big announcement you want to do, you can just write it in short and post it on Twitter. In terms of Facebook and Instagram, they are very different. And even the age group of people that use Facebook and Instagram is very different. And that's important to know because you as an organization or an individual or a company, you need to first and foremost, before you even think of content creation, think about your target audience. Who are you going to be talking to? What age range are these people in? Why do you want to talk to these people? So this goes back to like your work plan and even the goals of your company and organization. You may have different target audiences and different ages, and that's totally fine. So Facebook in general, it's very photos and videos and statistically speaking is used by like the older generation, given that the platform has been older has been created before Instagram. Instagram is like your go-to place for the youth and the young people, and Instagram is only video and photos. Like there's no space to like write big captions. You can, but that's not really the best direction to go with, depending on how you're going to be portraying your persona. TikTok is.
Can I interrupt you 1 second? What if you feel and you see that, let's say, your posts on Facebook are getting a lot more engagement than another platform? Is it wise then to direct your attention to that particular platform?
It's important to be visible on as many platforms as possible if it benefits your goals. So if you're receiving a lot of feedback on Facebook, that means that your target audience is of the age that is using Facebook. If you would like to tap into the younger generation, then Instagram is a must. And trying to further engage on Instagram is more challenging, but it would be that you're introducing a new audience to receive the content that you're posting. I just wanted to bring up TikTok because we can't not bring up TikTok, but TikTok is a platform that is purely video. They've recently introduced like a video type of photos, like a slideshow thing, but it's very, very visual. So that was like the very overview summary of the different platforms. Going back to thinking about what to post, as I mentioned, it's very important to know who the target audience is. That will let you know which platforms you want to focus on. Because I just said earlier that it's important to be everywhere, but you cannot. Like it's physically not possible, even digitally not possible to be everywhere at the same level at all times. So you will try to have an account on the platforms that benefit you the most. And that's where a strategy comes into place. And then try to use it, try to put a strategy and follow it. So it's important to know that if as a company, in this case, when we're talking individual, we're talking public accounts, so not like personal private accounts. It's very important that there's a difference between these two, like someone who wants to be public because they're offering insights into their career, or their public figure, or they're linking to an organization, just like it is in your case. So when we think about either individual or organization, whenever there is a post that goes online or live, we need to assume that the person seeing it may have not seen anything about you before.
Mhm.
That's how fast social media is and the digital world. So sometimes you're like, okay, I'm just gonna post like about this project, and you assume that people know what this project is, but in many times people have no idea who you are to begin with. So it's very important that in the caption, going back to the basis of communications, as we started this session, going back to the basics of writing, that you answer the 5 W's at all times in every caption as much as possible. And the 5 W's are the why, when, where, who,
What?
and what, yes. And if the caption is missing one of those, then if a new person is seeing your caption, they may not be able to understand the message fully. And this is a very common mistake that we see on social media on a day-to-day basis.
But this basic you are talking about is extremely important, because if you miss one piece of information and the person who is your audience doesn't understand what you need to say with this message, this is really a big mistake, because first and foremost, we need clarity when we convey the message, right?
Yes,
So
exactly. And
yeah.
especially it gets challenging in the sense that Twitter has a limited amount of characters. You're like, how am I going to answer all these things when it's such a short space? So that's where the visual comes to help, because you can just focus on a few things in the caption, but then you answer the rest of the questions in the visual, whether it's a static image or a video. And I kept saying how Instagram and TikTok and the newer platforms that are coming out, they focus a lot on visual. It's because people are unfortunately reading less and less, and are relying more on like listening and seeing, and video is an absolute necessary. So try to like get creative whenever you have free time, take a few videos, try editing apps. Like the apps have been trying to make video editing easier for users that are not professionals, but it's still a challenge, and trying to incorporate video content is really important. And people always get scared because like video is hard, and we're not saying that you're a video editor and you have to post the best video. Depending on the size of the organization and your budget and all these different things, but try to incorporate video, because quick, short, straight to the point videos will help you reach to people in an easier way.
She did it again, and she jumped to my next question, which was exactly about tips on how to work on your videos. Well, you just mentioned it. I want to say now something related to all of us, whether you are a member at Catalyst or as a social entrepreneur, we will invite you to become member, don't worry. But the point is, I'm talking about social entrepreneurs and the importance of communications, and having even the minimum of communication skills for you if you are a social entrepreneur is a must. It's not a choice nowadays. So Christine, do you want to tell us a little bit why is it important for social entrepreneurs to have those a little bit of skills in relation to communication?
I would say first and foremost, networking. That's whether it's online, virtually, or in person. And like as a new member of Catalyst, that has been one of the things that I've been benefiting from the most, being able to be connected with people from across the world, from different fields that are like-minded, because people tend to find other people that are like them, or search for hobbies or topics that are of interest to them. So whether that is through organizations or through online platforms, that's the way to go around it. But as we started off, communications is very big. So whether it's from writing to speaking to body language to digital, they're all different forms of communications. And it's very important, as we said, that even if you're not very tech savvy or you don't have a lot of knowledge about digital, or let's say you don't want, like that is a choice. There are a lot of people that do not want to have a digital presence. That's a different story, but it is important if you have a company that your company has. Even if you as a person don't want to share your personal life, that's totally up to you, and no one is saying that you have to do that. And that's where the weapon is in our hands. Like, we actually post whatever we want to share and however we want to post it. So I may be sharing so much and you may think that you know everything about me, but I may not be sharing anything about my personal life and just showing you my persona and my image that I want you to know about me. We're not saying that we're lying or we're hiding the truth, but this is where you can be selective on how you want to portray yourself, because it is an open-ended world. And as we said, even without us knowing, we are leaving our digital footprint behind. So it's very important for us to be conscious about what we want to share, how to share it, and how much of it to share.
Yes, you mentioned the body language, understanding it and controlling your own is very important, and also for social entrepreneurs. You mentioned also the written communications. I want to add to those, having a concise message.
Yes.
Make it concise, short, and clear, so others who listen to your message can really understand it in a very easy way. Making things complicated does not make us important. It's really good to understand that.
And that applies both for while speaking and also the written, and also in videos and graphics. So that applies to any type of communication outcome.
And one more thing, especially for social entrepreneurs, one of the skills they need to have in relation to communication is listening. And this is something I have noticed that it can take you far, far away, farther than you may imagine. I've attended hundreds of sessions with Catalyst, with people that I know a little bit, people that I've met in person, and people whom I met for the first time, new members, for example. But what I noticed is I am a talker. So when I'm talking, things are great. But when sometimes I just sit and listen to others, I realize that I learn so much, and it's like a new horizon opening up to me. So one of the skills that social entrepreneurs need to possess is listening to others. They may get many, many more ideas.
And also, if
yes.
I can add,
Yes.
also listening to your audience on digital is very important. So let's say you are trying out a new campaign and you had a full strategy, you posted your videos, your photos, whatever the campaign was about, and then you notice that you didn't get a lot of engagement. If you do that campaign again without changing anything about it, that means you did not listen to your audience. By listening to your audience, you're assessing that something could have been done better. I should have posted it in somewhere else. I should have used a different method, depending on the campaign. And that point, then we also need to be listening to our audience in the virtual space as well.
Very interesting. In the meantime, before I ask my last question, take your time with it because it's really important. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, or feel free when I finalize with my last question with Christine to raise hand. We want it to be a very, as Christine said, engaging session. But in case you don't want to forget, drop your question now in the chat. So Christine, if I want to say, you mentioned some tips, and this is, of course, I was going to ask you about this. Mention all the tips you want now, but finalize it with the 3 most important takeaway messages or takeaway tips for your social presence. 3 things that you want our lovely audience now to remember, but you can mention 10. At the end, tell me which 3 are the ones you want us to remember.
For them to remember, so the audience is actually focusing, I'll only mention the 3 to make it more concise. Again, going back to what we're saying, if we're not concise, then no one is going to be concise. And that's one of the key takeaways. Be straight to the point, simple and concise. As an example, catchy titles, short captions, make use of the digital technologies. Number 2, integrate video content. Video is the way to go moving forward. This does not mean that you don't have to post images, text is not working. Keep your strategy, but make sure that you add video to it, which takes me to my 3rd point, which is try to stay up to date with the trends. I know they change. Trust me, they change so fast. It's crazy the pace that technology is going and where we're going to get to, but try to stay up to date with what is happening. No one is saying that you need to sit and dive and invest so much time if you're not the communications expert yourself, but you will notice, just like in the past few years, we saw the influx in video content production, then that is a trend that is here to stay because it's no longer a trend. It became a very important tool. But if, let's say, there is a specific trend of a specific campaign that is going viral and you see that benefits your organization or that fits well with your mission and vision, then why not join that trend? It'll help get your message more out there. And number 4, I had to add number 4. Last but not least.
This is the passion. She said she's going to mention only 3. Go ahead, Christine, make them 5.
Last but not least, be yourself, be unique, and choose how little and how much you want to share. So remember that the personal touch is very important. We were trying to make a distinction that the persona I have online is a bit different than the one that is in person. That's not the impression we want to give. Yes, my persona online is me. It's not fully me because sometimes we tend to keep some of our private life matters private, as it should be. And that's very personal to how much or how little you want to share. But keeping your voice similar to how you are in real life is very important. So stay unique, be yourself, and enjoy. Don't let it be stressful. So many people are afraid of social media and the digital tools, and they tend to overthink all these things. I love it, as you can tell, but there are a lot of people that don't. So don't let it stress you. It is a world of its own. Read. If you don't want to do it, get someone to do it for you, but be visible.
Very, very nice conclusion. This is what I had prepared for this fireside chat. And now I really want to hear from you, whether you have a comment, simple comment of something you really liked of this conversation. We made it a bit informal, and we want to hear what you have to say. If you have a question or simply if you have a comment. So let's open the videos if you will, or if you wish, and open your mics, and we can have a very nice discussion as if we were seated in a cafe. This is the beauty of the virtual world. Let's think we're having a cup of coffee or tea. Here's my tea. So let's have a tea together. There you go. Cheers. Okay, so waiting to hear your comments. I see some known names here. And I want to thank everyone again for attending. Personally, I think it's an unlimited world. I've been working public relations and communications for, I think I started doing that much before I knew it was called public relations. Since I was a little girl, I had a very my convincing ways without knowing that the tool I was using was actually communicating what I wanted in such a convincing way. So I'm still waiting for you. I'm not going to call by names, but I really want to hear from you, or drop a word in the chat, because we want to know what you think of this. Otherwise, I think Christine said it all. She's
I would just, sorry,
beautifully.
I was gonna add, feel free to add us on LinkedIn and Twitter. It's our names are very easy to find because of our digital presence. And we'd love to connect with you if there's any way we can help, or if you have any questions beyond this session, feel free to reach them out.
Okay, so Rhea has a question. You want to read it, Christine?
Yes, 1 second. What do you feel about writing as a tool on blogs or other avenues? I understand it is difficult, as things would need to be very visual on apps like Facebook and Instagram, but there are any platforms where writing can be used. So great question, Rhea. Thank you for bringing it up. Even though we are saying that video is the way forward and visual as well, writing is still there. And trying to make it engaging is the way to go. So depending on the area of focus, for example, I work in the healthcare industry, particularly for nonprofits. Sometimes there's a lot to say, so you have to have a blog post, but keeping it simple. In my case, for example, the audience is patients, so trying to make the information very simple and accessible, and using that to promote it on social media. So you would then create a simple visual graphic or video that you would then link to the blog post. So it's very important that you end your captions on social media with a call to action. And ideally you would want to for that person that you reached that actually really liked the post that you created or benefited from it, some of that audience would actually take the step further and want to learn more, whether it's about the campaign, the article, the project, whatever you're doing, and click on that link. So that's where it goes back to the website or the blog post. But again, the 5 Ws apply for the blog post. So in the past, blog posts used to be much longer. I would say keep them short as much as possible. It really varies on the topic and the identity of the company or individual, or whatever the case is at that point.
Rhea, I want to share with you my experience regarding what you mentioned. It's very important to express in writing if you notice that the audience is really appreciating it and is reading the content of the blog. But I think if I want to compare when we write versus when we post a picture or a video, the audience interaction and engagement is like this. You put something in writing here, you get this much interaction. You put a video or a picture, you go sky high with the engagement. So it's actually, the trend is going more towards pictures and videos. I love personally reading something interesting, but it depends what you want from your blog. If you want more engagement, if you want, you can combine, you can keep the blog for those who like to read and add to it the flavor of a short video or a picture.
Exactly. We've gotten to a point with all of these different digital tools that you cannot see one of them on its own. Like you cannot just do video unless it's TikTok, which is like, that's what it is. But it's very important to see the different tools that you have, how you use them to benefit your strategy and your identity that you're trying to build. Don't focus on just one. There's so many, so try to see which ones you feel comfortable with, which ones portray you as an individual or an organization the most, and then integrate them into your strategy.
So we have another question from Karen. Karen, thank you for being with us and for your question. Karen says, I'm often asked to put links on social media graphic, but feel that most people won't type those out. They would prefer to click to an event
Yes,
from the caption.
exactly.
How do you handle those sort of requests? Because you want the organization to succeed, but if their graphic is too busy or complicated, it can prevent people from engaging with them. So what do you think, Christine?
Nowadays, with QR codes on the rise, I think that's a way to do it, because sometimes people, and I've been in this position, so I understand what you're talking about exactly. Sometimes, like, if you want, they're insisting that they want to have their website visible, you could replace it with a QR code. Or if you have a short handle for the website, you could put it, but you cannot click the image. So I personally don't see a point in putting the website on the graphic unless it's a QR code, because someone else could use it. If it's not going to be printed, then also the QR code, there's like the pros and cons to it. But having it in the caption, it's hyperlinked, you can click on it. I think it's the easiest way to do it, but there are different sides to it.
And we have another question from Mehdi. Thank you, Mehdi, for your support, for being with us today, and for helping throughout the session as well. So how long does your digital footprint last? Interesting question. What are some common mistakes people make that can negatively impact their digital footprint? Interesting.
So this is a tricky question because it goes back to all those data hubs that we see. Technically speaking, it doesn't go away, like it just goes to the cloud. So once it's out, even if we delete it or if we delete a post, it's somewhere that we may not know of. So that's why it's important to know what to post. Common mistakes is, let's say someone posted a video that is not very appropriate for like their career path, then that is a mistake that they did. If someone got in trouble or got a speeding ticket, I don't know, like stuff like that, that would then appear when you get Googled. That's very hard to like take down, and it's not in our control, but they are built into like the impression that you give on social media and the digital world, because social media, you control it to a certain extent, but we don't know like where this information goes even after it's deleted.
Christine,
you're welcome.
I want to thank you once again for your time, for sharing your expertise with us, for this beautiful conversation that we've had. I hope all the attendees have benefited from even one little piece of information added to their baggage of information. And again, just to wrap up with the important message is that communication nowadays is something that you should not and cannot live without, especially if you are a social entrepreneur. The key is in the good use of any platform that you come across, and do not shy away from seeking the help of the professionals. If you want this social presence and you're not knowledgeable enough, there's no shame in asking for help. That's why professional people in the communication field exist to guide us so we don't make the mistakes that Mehdi mentioned. And I wish you all a great rest of the day or the evening, wherever you are joining us from. And I want to thank you again for your precious time that you have given to us to listen to this topic today. Mehdi, thank you. And once again, I'm a proud member of Catalyst, and I invite you to, okay, I want to see if there is any more messages. Okay.
No,
I would like to invite you to our next session as the Lebanon chapter, which will be on Thursday at 8 p.m. Beirut time. It's going to be a very interesting session about success story regarding a collaboration between the Lebanon chapter and COSP, a program where many members at Catalyst are now participating or working throughout this project. Really important, an eye-opener on what is really Catalyst, how we co-create, how we collaborate, always for the best of our communities. Thank you again. Thank you, Christine.
Tamara, we'll be in touch with you offline. Thank you for your comment. Or if you can send me a message on LinkedIn or something. I'm not sure if we have your contact.
Yes. Thank you, Tamara. I will share your contacts with Christine. Tamara is going to be interviewing me in her program about ladies doing something for as a first, a ladies pioneer, which I thank her for. It's to talk about my position at the International Diabetes Federation, because I'm the first lady from the MENA region to ever occupy this position through election. So thank you, Tamara, and I'll put Christine in touch with you regarding your question. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining this session. I hope you were able to learn something. I know there's so much to talk about, and we tried to give some examples, but it was still a little general. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And thank you again to Catalyst for giving us this opportunity to share our expertise and network with other peoples, and for this very interesting Catalyzing Change Week.
Thanks again, Christine. Thank you everyone for your lovely comments. I'm reading them. And now it's time to say goodbye. We'll meet you again, hopefully on Thursday, if you're kind enough to attend with us at the other session for the Lebanon chapter at Catalyst 2030. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.